How's it going, everyone? We have people filing in. Frank, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Hi, Zach. Hi, everyone.
What's up? Wait for a couple more people as they're filing in. Slack Brian, I think he was planning on getting on too.
A lot of nice offices out there, Zach, compared to mine and yours, huh?
Yeah, I know. We need to step up our office game.
No kidding.
I say I get to approve everybody before they come in, so it makes me feel powerful. I get to decide who comes into the meeting.
If that's what you need in your life, Zach, then
Yeah, it
that's
absolutely is. What's up, Renee? All right, just a few more minutes and we will get started. I want to do one of these one time, Frank, where we get, I always thought it'd be fun to figure out what kind of production we have with a group like this. I bet you if we combined everyone's production together, it'd be some pretty big numbers there.
yeah, I definitely agree. I think those that are actively learning about their system are probably a little more productive.
Hey, Sandra. Okay, I don't know if Brian was on a call with someone, so we can just kind of get started. So, Frank, have you heard from Brian, or should we just get it going?
Yeah, just get it going. Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on topics and stuff today,
Yeah.
but go ahead and move forward.
So, kind of one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, and everyone can hear me all right? Everyone's on mute, by the way, by default on these calls. So you'll come in on mute. Feel free at any time to just pop off a mute, ask a question or say hi. I won't mind if you interrupt me. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is as you start using Sisu, the more that you can tie what happens in Sisu to processes that are required. I think we got Brian here. What's up, Brian?
Hi, everyone.
How's it going?
Great. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I could not get my customer off the phone. So
Don't worry. I told him you had big business going on.
He had to ditch one customer for these amazing 12, right?
That's right. That's right.
Brian, I started talking about forms. That's kind of what we wanted to go into today. And,
Yep.
tying your reporting and different things that happen in Sisu to a process that might be required by your agents anyways. So, I mean, this was a feature that you really noticed a need for and kind of started building out. What was it, a few months ago? But maybe you could elaborate a little more on that.
Yeah. So, in fact, I just got off the phone with a brokerage that has 5 offices, and they're with a major brokerage. They use .loop, but at the same time, they're still doing a ton of stuff in spreadsheets, right? So the purpose of these forms is to make it so that as soon as somebody goes pending, all of everything that you need to put into somewhere, right? Most people have been tracking it in Google Forms. All of that data can be put into our platform, into these forms, and then a lot of it's already going to be there because it's come in from your CRM or it's come in from the agent's app or different things like that. But then you complete that. Now, once that form's completed, you can forecast your revenues from that. You can set up notifications from that so that your admin team can be notified prior to deadlines such as financing and appraisal deadlines, due diligence deadlines, those types of things. Also, it'll make it so that you can run your challenges from that. So as long as that form is updated by your transaction coordinator once something goes pending, or by your agent, I see it being done both ways, then 100% of the data is in our platform, which gives you the ability to utilize the platform however you want. And then in the very near future, we'll actually be pushing that data into things like .loop, things like DocuSign. If any of you are part of a Realogy brand, it would allow you to push that into Dash. And so again, the whole purpose here is to eliminate duplicate data entry, not to create more work for you.
Cool, love it. Yeah, one of the ways that I kind of describe it is you're trying to make it so that all your data is funneling into one place where all of your reporting happens. So, you know, if you have these Google Forms shooting to an email and a Google Form shooting to this spreadsheet and that spreadsheet, and it's just kind of all over the place, it's kind of like a leaky bucket, where with Sisu, you're just trying to aggregate all the data and build that file as you go, so you're not having to ever enter anything twice, right? So, yeah, go. What do you say we just pull it up and kind of go through it, Brian, or did you want
Yeah.
to a little more?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Why don't you open up our Sisu platform, and let's just pull up Trisha Tongrati.
Okay, our favorite client. Let's see. Let's find Trisha.
I know I keep that file up to date, so.
Yep, that's why she's our favorite. Okay, here's Trisha. Look at it on your side. Which form?
So Trisha is a buyer. Trisha's a buyer. So what I recommend, let's stay in this transaction form for a second. My recommendation is to keep this transaction form as basic as possible. You know, have the bold fields in here, the client type, those are the required fields. Those are what are going to be entered from the agent's app. And then these orange dates, you definitely want those in there. I would add appointments set in there if you're tracking appointments set, because that's also in the app. But those are the dates, those orange dates that drive people through the dashboard. So you always want to make sure those are accurate. But if it were me, I would have the bold forms and the lead source, maybe some of these basic items here, and then I would have the notes, because if somebody leaves a listing appointment and puts notes into their phone, those notes will be sitting here for your admin team, right? So I would add that into this form. So the transaction form, I would just keep the basic information there. But then with this being a buyer, go to the buyer contract close form. I think it's called buyer recap form, probably in most people's forms. You can rename that to whatever you want. But here you see everything that should be put in for a buyer. So you know the MLS ID. What's the MLS ID? You know, so that you can quickly see look up the data on the MLS. All the information you need as far as the other agent, all of the Rep C deadlines, all of that stuff is in here. Then when you scroll down to the bottom, you see we have things like the home warranty company. Let's stop up there at the home warranty company, Zach. So you have the home warranty company, the home inspection company, we have the mortgage company, and if you don't like the order these are in, go ahead and resort the order. I think all of those companies should be together. I think they've been refiltered probably by our team just doing demos. But you can put all of those vendors together in one section, which I would recommend you do, so that you can quickly just go through and do that. And you can see this form here, it actually has our preferred vendors have been set up so where we have their logos in there, which if you show that to your preferred vendors, I've seen that people have been able to get more money from their preferred vendors for marketing dollars or for client events, client appreciation events, that kind of stuff. So make sure you take advantage of adding those logos in for your preferred vendors. Sit down with your preferred vendors, show them how you run your business. And then in the very near future, your preferred vendors, right now, you can share this out to them. Zach, let's go up and show how we share this out.
Yep. here.
So today I can just say, send this information, and everything that's been completed is automatically going to go out to, let's just choose the home inspection company here, Zach, or let's choose, let's send everything out to City Creek Mortgage. So I want to send all of this out to my mortgage company. I'm just going, and yeah, let's copy you, Zach, so you can pull this up in a second. Yeah, I'm already going to be on that. My email's in City Creek Mortgage.
Okay.
So, and then let's attach the rep C to that as well, Zach. So you can see, you can actually attach your docs and you can just send this out to your mortgage company. You could put a quick note at the top and say, hey, this just went under contract, you know, let's get the appraisal done. If you want an appraisal done at that point, if you want it to wait till after the home inspection, whatever, you can put whatever instructions you want on there. And then this is how you inform your vendors that somebody's under contract. So you're really eliminating the step of having to make the phone calls. You're eliminating the step of having to do additional emails, and you're really automating your workflows. So in the very near future, not only will we send out an email, but we'll also allow your vendors to log into the platform. And ultimately, the goal is for all of your mortgage companies to just be able to pull this data into their LOS so that they don't have to then go put all of the data into their platform, right? I mean, just this duplicate data entry is a big problem that we really want to eliminate and solve for.
Love it.
So Zach, did you send that out?
Yeah, should I pull up my
Yeah,
email?
why don't we pull that up in your email just to show everybody how that comes across?
Yeah. There we go.
So again, you guys, all of the data that your mortgage company needs is already here. There's no reason for you to have to type this in multiple times. And then you can see there's a link there that actually gives them access to the rep C as well. In the very near future, we will be pulling from DocuSign and from .loop all of your documents. Probably not automatically. We'll probably have you push a button to pull all of them in per contract.
Very cool. So let's maybe go into just setting up these forms and how you can customize them the way you want. So, you know, basically you can view these forms unless you wanted to hit something else there, Brian.
No, I think that's great, Zach. So, I mean, one thing, let's go show how we can put all of those, let's put all of the vendors together at the bottom on this form.
Okay, cool. So under admin team settings, you have two parts to this, your forms and then your fields. So on forms, this is where you can create different types of forms. So we have all of our different forms here. And you probably have some default ones that were created when you started with the system. You can name them what they want, give them a little description. You basically just see these as different views of the data, right? When you want to edit those forms, you come into this field. So if we want to change the way that this buyer contract close form looks, I can pull this up. And we're going to move home warranty down to the bottom, right? We could do that. So, Brian, we need to make this so it'll drag down.
Yeah, and the way that drag and drop doesn't work in this particular system that we're using for this today, I've found the easiest way, if you want to move something from the top to the bottom, is to drag it over to the unused and then drag it back into the used where you want it.
That makes sense.
So with the home warranty companies, go ahead and do that. Just drag it over to the unused. And I would do both. And the home warranty.
What else are you wanting to pull? The amount?
No, I think that's good. I was just going to put all the vendors down at the bottom together so that
warranty inspection.
all of my vendors, they're right there together.
Yep.
It just makes it easier to find that vendor. In my opinion, it makes it easier to find all those vendors if they're just all together at the bottom there. So as you're going through choosing your vendors. So go ahead and update that, Zach, and then let's go back into the form and just show how easy it really is to just update these and make them any way they want. You can pull fields out. You can put fields in.
So there we go. Now they're all down at the bottom here.
And so now I have all my vendors at the bottom. So you guys can see how easy it is to customize these the way you want. But with these forms, you should never need a spreadsheet. And in the very near future, if you're putting everything into Sisu's forms, it's going to auto-populate all of your .loop stuff as well, or all of your DocuSign stuff as well. So you're not going to have to go in and complete all of that. And I know most people, I've looked at a lot of people's .loops, and that loop, if you go in, you know, you're usually, most people are doing a great job of managing their contracts from .loop, but they're really not filling in all of the data on the transaction. So this will automatically do that for you. Any fields that are in our platform and also in theirs, we plan on just being able to pull that in or push that in.
Yeah. So what are some ideas, Brian, for different forms that might want to be created up here, different ways you can use this to automate? I mean, we have some examples here, but maybe you can just talk about how people are using those.
Well, the one thing I don't want it to do is get too confusing. So I think probably the two most important forms, well, the three most important we've already put in here, which one is a buyer goes under contract, what's the data that needs to be in? Two is a listing goes under contract, what's the data that needs to be in? The third is if you are doing for your agents, if you're the ones filling out the paperwork when they're going to go on a listing appointment, we have a form in there for that as well. So that form, I think we call it listing appointment form. So basically anything that, you know, if they're going on a listing appointment, that's all the data that your admin team would need to be able to go in and get their docs ready, to do a pre-listing package for them, that kind of stuff. So that's the purpose of that form. The listing sign form is another one that can or cannot be used, but a listing signed, right? Any information that you need from them to get the data onto the MLS. So that's the purpose of that form. So they're going to come in and fill out things like the MLS remarks. When is the open house date going to be? When is the sign install date? So that as an admin team, you have all the data you need to effectively manage that listing. So I think those are really the most important forms. I think if you get beyond that, it might get a little confusing, but I think we created one in here that's as simple as for a sign installer, here's the address, right? So you could just click on it and send off the information for a sign installer. Or if you, same thing for a home inspection company, you know, a home inspector doesn't need that much information about the house. So just send them, if you wanted to do a home inspection form, it would just give you the ability to very quickly click on that form and share that form out to your home inspector. So that's really the purpose of that, is just to make it really quick and easy to share that form out to your home inspector. Now, again, that home inspection form is going to be so basic. It's probably going to be 5 fields. It's not like you're going to have to go in and fill it out separately. All of that data is already going to be in that form. The purpose of creating that form is just so that you're not giving them information more than they really need.
Yeah, when you click on any one of these forms, it auto-populates anything that's already been entered. So you're just going in and, you know, maybe filling in the blanks. Or if you're having your agents come in and fill out forms at certain points, like they sign a listing or they put a listing under contract and you want them to contribute to that data entry, they just pull up this form and most of it's going to be, you know, a lot of this data has already been aggregated. So they just have to go in and fill in the blanks. So.
Yeah, so even at that, I mean, you're saving a lot of time compared to having to re-input everything, because a lot of it, like Zach said, it's already in there. So based on that, I think we've done a pretty solid review of forms. Let's address questions that you guys have.
Yeah, just hit unmute and fire away, or chat box it to us if you want.
Guys, on the pre-filled information, where you're on the forms, for example, where you're talking about when an agent goes to put in information here, a lot of it's going to auto-populate. Where is that originating from? Where does the information need to be first? Is that from a transaction form or for contact records? Where does their information originate from in order to auto-populate on these forms?
So the basic information is typically coming from one of two places. Either it's coming from your CRM. When an agent gets marked hot in your CRM, it's being pulled into our platform. At that point, you have a name, you have probably an address, you have a lead source. That's probably about it. And then as the agent gets out and goes on an appointment, they should be entering those dates into the app. So all of those dates that are in orange are now being populated. Let's move over to another form, Zach. Just maybe go up to the transaction form. So those basic, at that point, this basic information that's on this transaction form, that's now pretty much complete, right? Now, if somebody goes under contract, there's going to be more information to fill out, but all of the stuff that's in this transaction form, it's already filled out, right? So if you have all of those same fields in your contract to close form, then you're not going to have to re-enter those. They're already in the system. With this being a database, instead of being a spreadsheet, once the data is in the platform, it's in the platform, and it's going to stay there no matter what field, no matter what form you're on. If that form has that field's already been completed. You're not having to re-enter it. So does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
I think so. Is it recognizing based on, for example, the client's name? Like if you start typing a name on a form other than a form that it's already on, I'm probably asking this so that it's confusing, but let's say I have a transaction form and then I go to make a buyer appointment form and I start typing in the same name. Is that how it's connecting information to be able to pre-fill other information? Or
so that's a great question. So everything in here is based on a certain transaction. It's not based on a client name. It's not based on an agent name. It's based on a transaction. So an example of that would be if I have a listing and I'm going to go, when I sell that listing, I'm going to work with them on the buy side as well. Those are two separate transactions. So when you pull up that name, if you go into admin transactions, and let's go ahead and walk into this, Zach. Let's go to admin transactions real quick. So if I go into admin transactions and all of my transactions are in there. So I may have someone like Trisha Tangradi who I did multiple transactions with. I may have a buyer transaction in there with her. I may have a listing transaction, or maybe it's someone, they're an investor and they buy 5 homes a year. And I have all 5 of those transactions in there. So at that point, if you sort by name, it'll pull up all 5 transactions tied to that person. And then you may want to sort by address as well, so that you're pulling up the correct transaction. Or maybe you just want to sort by address anyway, because that way you can get to the transaction faster and easier. I know a lot of transaction coordinators prefer to search by address instead of name of a client. So
one thing I want to point out here is the order that things show up on your transaction form is the order that they show up on this sheet. So if I want address over here, I can drag it over or drag it to the top of my transaction form, and that's what's going to show up here. And I just saw some UI from Chris, our designer, that's going to allow you to freeze columns on this left side, so that as you're scrolling through, whatever you're maybe you're mostly looking at address, it'll be frozen over here on this left side. So just wanted to throw that out. Jason, does that answer your question?
it does. Thank you.
Yeah, so all the forms for one client are tied to that client. One client has all those forms and they're all tied to that one specific transaction.
Okay, thanks.
We got another question from Jenny. When you fill out a listing appointment form, what status shows up under the transactions list? Pipeline. So it's important. I could take this one, Brian, unless you have something to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, the statuses of your clients are driven by these dates. So when something comes into the system and it doesn't have an appointment met, it doesn't have an appointment set, doesn't have an appointment met, doesn't have signed under contract or settlement, that's when it's showing up as pipeline. It's just basically it's a hot lead. It's someone in your pipeline. As soon as they get a signed date, that's either today or in the past, they're going to show up as signed in the platform. Once again, under contract date, that shows up as pending. So they're going to start showing up as pending.
As long as that date is today or has already passed.
Yeah, dates in the future obviously don't count. And then as soon as there's a settlement date that's active, so either today or in the past, that's when they're going to show up as closed. So it's these dates that are driving things through the pipeline. So let's say your agents fill out a listing signed form, and one of the required fields on here is the signed date. You know, what day was the listing agreement actually signed? By virtue of filling this out and putting in that signed date, this is going to update the status of this client to signed. Does that answer your question, Jenny? You might be on mute still.
Sorry, Zach.
Hi.
Yeah, it does. Like, I understand that part, but if we're going, like, if I'm doing a listing appointment form, it doesn't mean that they've necessarily signed anything yet. Like,
Okay, yeah.
Going on the appointment. So with that,
so they would show up as pipeline still,
okay,
if they haven't put in a sign date. But you could run a report and say, you know, show me everything that you've met with, every listing that you've met with over a certain time period, and that's where you can kind of get an idea of that portion of the pipeline.
Now, Jenny, if they do complete a listing appointment form, it's not under contract yet, it's not signed, but they can actually share that with you so that you know via email, right? So they can share that out with you so that you know you need to complete that. So if they're in that listing appointment form, they can go ahead. They don't have the ability to share it out to your vendors, but they do have the ability to share it with the team.
So would we fill these out for tracking purposes?
That can be a good practice. You can tell your agents, hey, whenever you go on a listing appointment, go in and fill out a listing appointment form. By virtue of having this first time appointment met here, I'm going to get the reporting on those listing appointments. So that can, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
okay.
Jenny, for tracking, I mean, if they have to fill out all that information, if you're not doing anything for them with that form, really the most important date is the one that's there in orange. That's going to track that they went on the appointment that day. And the orange dates are really the dates that show up in the dashboard. If you go, Zach, let's go look at the dashboard. Zach's been highlighting those orange dates. Those orange dates are really what show, whether it's personal or team, that's what's going to show up in those circles right there. So if that date has come and is in the past, right? So for today, what's the date today?
16th, 17th.
So with today being the 17th, anything, if I'm looking at a monthly dashboard here, and I've filled in appointments met and signed, anything that's happened from the 1st of July to the 17th of July, that's going to show up on that sheet.
Yeah, so you can see here, I have 2 buyer appointments met. If I click through on that, it's going to give me those 2 clients with buyer appointments met in July. So we're looking at buyers, me, first time appointment met in July. I get my 2 leads here, and looks like I have a split on one of these, so that's why it's showing up. So cool. And then you could always throw other filters on here and say, okay, well, show me all of them that have come with a certain lead source or things like that. So
Okay,
cool.
thank you.
Yep. Okay, other question. Angie was asking about required fields. Making forms required. So Brian, I know we've been working on some stuff there. What's the status on maybe making these forms or certain parts of these forms required?
That's something that we don't have today, but we've had a lot of people request that, so it's definitely something we're planning on doing.
My kind of feel, and I'd love to get some feedback from you guys maybe, is you could make certain elements of these forms required in order to hit submit or in order to update. And that would basically make it so that you ensure that these forms are complete with the required information before they're sent over, before they're updated. Angie, I mean, can you give us a little feedback there, or kind of what you're looking to do with that kind of feature? And you might be on mute.
So I don't know if it was custom Angie or right now the fields that we require are the fields that are black. And the reason we require those are they're just basic fields. Some people say, why do you require GCI and paid income? The reason we require those, even though we know they're not accurate, they're not going to be 100% accurate until you go under contract, but it's a good way for you to forecast your revenue.
Okay, cool. I think Angie had to hop off. Okay, another question we have. Can we have first time, this is from Jason Mitchell, can we have first time appointments show up on the dashboard and challenges?
So first time appointments set are not currently showing up. However, we are working on something. This is probably 60 to 90 days out, but we are working on something that will allow you to somewhat customize your dashboards. And this will be on the web as well as on your app on your phones. And so once that happens, you will likely be able to do that, but it's still a ways out.
You do have appointments set down here. It's just not as front and center as the appointments met. So
correct.
If you aren't seeing this, you can go admin team settings and just customize the activities that you're showing there, and you can create appointments set here. Yeah, go ahead.
Zach, let's also show the report that shows that. So if you go to, there's a couple of reports that show that. One is the production and activity report. So you can do this for your entire business, or you could just do this for a certain agent, but you can look at that tracks appointments met and signed. And if you want to see the conversion ratio, you just hit, you'll just go to appointments met and then click on to under contract. And that lets you see your conversion ratio right there. So go ahead and hit refresh.
You could do a conversion ratio between really any metric that you want to, right? So
yeah, so let's do under contract and then pull that one up, Zach, just so it's not, let's leave that one there.
First time appointments met to under contract.
Yeah, just to show you guys an example, so you can see any of the conversion ratios you want. Now that's for your team. If you're having a one-on-one appointment with your team, if let's just say you're having a one-on-one with one of your agents, you could actually drill down into this. Now we added this so that you can also see things on additional things like dials and appointments set that we don't have in our dashboards today. So yeah, another place you can utilize this is there's the performance and conversion report right below that. And that'll just show you this data on all of your agents on one screen.
So this is looking at conversations to set, to met, to sign, to under contract, to closed over any date range you choose. So, and typically when you're looking at these conversion ratios, it's more effective to look at them over a bigger time period. So if I'm looking at them year to date, I'm going to get a much better idea of what kind of ratios this agent's converting at than if I look at it over a month or a week. So if you're
especially if you're factoring closed into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're just looking for numbers, then yeah, it's good to run this over a week or a month. But if you're looking for conversion ratios, run it over a bigger time period so you actually get a real idea of what those ratios are. Okay.
Another thing you guys have probably noticed, for those of you who have been on the platform for a while, almost everything on the platform now has a start date and an end date. Instead of choosing months or years, you can, in most cases, go in and set any date range you want. So a lot of people were asking for being able to pull weekly numbers so that they could just look at last week. And so you now have the ability to do that pretty much throughout the platform.
Just one more thing, Jason, you asked about running challenges on these metrics, and you absolutely can. Just go to challenges under admin. You can create a challenge here and just select your metric as appointment set, and you'll have it right there. So, okay, Stephen was asking about, are you good there, Jason Mitchell, or do you have other questions?
Nope, that answered my question. Thank you.
So Jason, one thing to note is if you go in and set custom activities, so any custom activity you create, you can actually run a challenge on. So it could be anything, right? You could create a challenge on, how many meals people eat a day if you want.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So I'd love to get some feedback on this one that that Steven's asking about. He wants to know, Brian, if we can, on this report, instead of putting the client's names here, if we can put the address or somehow filter the address in. And I'd just love to get some feedback from you guys. I mean, are most of you looking, I've found that a lot of transaction coordinators look at addresses more than they look at client names. Is that the case? And if so, would it be more helpful to have, an address field here instead of a client name? Or maybe both, hopefully? Brian, is that something that's already on our pipeline with Trevor? Or?
That's something that's very easy to do. So, I mean, if people want an address added to the wig sheet, we can easily do that.
That'd be awesome. As a team leader, I don't know any of these people, so trying to associate names with properties is not good for me.
Okay, Zach, why don't you log into the beta platform? This is a release that's going to come out here in the next week. And you'll see one of the things people requested was being able to edit clients directly from there instead of having to go out of that sheet and into another sheet. So we listened to that feedback. And so if you go into reports here, you can see we now on the next release will actually let you edit that customer directly from here, or that client.
Yeah, I think it would be good. Let's see if we can get an address line added in here or talk with Trevor about what that would be.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how big that lead source field is, there's plenty of room for us to shorten that up and add an address. Yeah. So we'll make note and we'll make that happen for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Should we just to wrap up here, Brian, maybe we give them a little sneak peek on the groups thing that we're rolling out pretty soon?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to go ahead and do that? Yeah,
so in your team settings, this is going, I'm actually logged in as the wrong. Let me log back into my account. Let's see. So if I go into my team settings, I'm going to have a new menu item here that is groups. What I'll be able to do is I'll be able to create a bunch of different groups that might be like if I have multiple office locations, or I want to be able to do my reporting and filter by buyers or sellers, or I have a group of agents that I'm specifically interested in looking at as far as reporting goes, or teams within teams, you'll be able to create those groups in here. And then when you go into your reporting, you can always change the scope of whatever report you're looking at. So I have this one group with 7 agents. I can change the scope here to be looking at a team, to be looking at a group of agents, or to be looking at a specific agent. So that's going to accomplish, a lot of you have teams within teams, and you want to be able to break out your reporting that way. That's what this new feature is going to allow you to do. It'll be cool. And then Brian, the teams versus teams is kind of the next step of that, right? Which will be really cool on the challenge.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, like in challenges right now, you have the ability to create these groups, but in challenges, you don't have yet the ability to have each group compete against each other. So we're just really working on the design of that, and that will be, that'll be coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah. So you can, another thing you can do here is you can run challenges that are specific to a group, and so if you have two different offices and you want to split up 2 different challenges, so they're only seeing at their office their relevant challenges, that's something you can do as well. So, but yeah, anything else, Brian? I mean, I think we covered a good chunk of information here. So
yeah, no, that's great for today. Unless anyone else has any questions, just we'll keep it going, and we're grateful that you guys are jumping onto this call every week. I think it'll really help you utilize the system at a higher level by being on these. So thanks for joining us.
Yep, these are power users. When you hop on and make requests, it carries a lot of weight. So we love it. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you guys.